Maria was 18 years old and believed her life was perfect. Growing up in a small town in the United States, she always had a close-knit circle of people she trusted unconditionally. Carlos, her boyfriend since high school, was the person she imagined spending the rest of her life with. They were the couple everyone admired, the ones who seemed made for each other. And then there was Ana, her best friend since childhood, the sister she never had. Maria, Carlos, and Ana were inseparable. They shared secrets, dreams, and fears. However, in their last year of high school, a shadow began to loom over this seemingly unbreakable friendship. Ana revealed that she was pregnant but refused to say who the father was. Maria, with her generous heart, didn't hesitate to support Ana. She stood by her friend through every medical checkup, every moment of doubt and fear. While Ana prepared for motherhood, Maria tried to maintain normalcy in her relationship with Carlos. She believed that despite the challenges, their love would be strong enough to overcome any obstacle. However, there was something that didn't add up, a feeling of unease that Maria couldn't ignore. Carlos was becoming more distant and evasive, and Ana seemed more reserved than ever. Then, on a day Maria would never forget, the truth came out. When visiting Ana's ex-boyfriend, she asked an innocent question that changed her life forever. The guy, unaware of Maria's connection to Carlos, mentioned that he was the father of Ana's baby. Maria's world collapsed. The pain of betrayal was unbearable, a deep blow to her heart. Maria confronted Carlos, who finally admitted the truth. Her anger and pain were palpable, but the worst was yet to come. When Maria confronted her family, she discovered that everyone knew about the betrayal. Her parents, her siblings, all had chosen to protect Ana and Carlos, leaving Maria in the dark. Feeling betrayed by everyone she loved, Maria saw no other way but to flee. She left her home, her town, and everything she knew, carrying only her pain and the determination to never be hurt like that again. That night, as she walked away from everything she knew, Maria felt a mix of despair and a new resolve. The betrayal had destroyed her life as she knew it, but it had also forced her to redefine herself. From that moment on, Maria decided she would build a new life, one where she alone was responsible for her happiness. But the scars from that deep betrayal were just beginning to form, promising a painful and transformative journey ahead. In the darkness of that night, Maria left behind not just her hometown, but also the ruins of her old life. She boarded a bus to an unknown city, carrying only a suitcase and her broken heart. Each mile that took her farther from home was an attempt to distance herself from the pain. But the silent tears running down her face revealed that this was an impossible task. The first few months were a true test of survival. Maria found a job at a small cafe, where she worked long hours to pay for a cramped, dimly lit room. The loneliness was suffocating, and the nights were filled with the sound of her own crying, echoing off the empty walls. There were moments when she wondered if she would ever get over the betrayal, if her heart would ever stop hurting. But little by little, Maria began to rebuild her life. She enrolled in a night course in business administration, determined to create a better future for herself. At work, she made friends with colleagues who gradually helped her find a new perspective. Each small victory, a good grade at school, a promotion at work, was a step towards healing. However, the shadow of the past still followed her, and the image of Carlos and Ana together haunted her dreams. One day, while having breakfast at a local diner, Maria met John, a kind and caring man who frequented the place. John had a contagious laugh and an understanding gaze that seemed to see beyond Maria's brave facade. Slowly, he became a constant presence in her life, offering genuine friendship and eventually something more. Maria, however, was reluctant. She had built high walls around her heart, fearing that any new connection would bring more pain. Maria's internal struggle between moving on and protecting herself from suffering was intense. There were nights when she found herself looking at the phone, considering calling her family. But the fear of reliving the betrayal always stopped her. She didn't know if she was ready to face those who had hurt her so deeply. Yet there was a part of her that longed for reconciliation, that wished to believe there could be redemption. Maria's life continued to oscillate between hope and despair, love and fear. As she tried to open up to John, the ghosts of Carlos and Ana still haunted her, reminding her that love could be as painful as it was beautiful. Each day was a battle. Each step forward came with the risk of losing herself again. Then, one day, Maria received a letter. It was from her niece, a girl she barely knew, but whose message was clear. The family missed her. The letter brought a storm of emotions. Maria wanted to believe that things could be different, that maybe it was possible to forgive and move on. But the fear of betrayal was still there. a wound that had never truly healed. The decision to visit her family again was one of the most difficult moments of Maria's life. Each mile that brought her closer to home increased her anxiety. She didn't know what to expect, nor if she was ready to face her past. But in her heart there was a small spark of hope, the hope that maybe, just maybe, it was possible to find peace. And so, with a heavy heart and a mind full of unanswered questions, Maria began her journey back to where it all started, not knowing what the future held. The journey back home felt endless. Each mile traveled increased the weight on Maria's chest. She felt like a prisoner about to face judgment. When she finally arrived, the small town seemed both familiar and strange. Every corner, every building held memories of a past she had tried to forget. As she approached her childhood home, Maria was overwhelmed with a mix of anxiety and nostalgia. Her mother opened the door and greeted her with a tight hug and tears in her eyes. It was an emotional reunion, but the presence of her gathered siblings brought unexpected warmth. For a moment, Maria allowed herself to believe that maybe things could get better. But the tension soon returned. After a few hours of superficial conversations and reminiscing, her mother brought up the topic Maria dreaded. "You need to reconcile with Carlos and Ana," her mother said insistently. The room seemed to freeze. Maria's heart raced and she felt an old anger rising. "I can't believe you still expect that from me after everything," Maria replied, her voice trembling with emotion. The ensuing argument was heated. Her mother insisted that time had healed the wounds and that Carlos and Ana deserved a second chance. Maria felt like an open wound. Each word from her mother was like salt on her skin. She tried to explain the depth of her pain, how the betrayal had shattered her trust. But her mother seemed deaf to her pleas. During those days at home, Maria reconnected with other family members. Some showed support, while others, influenced by her mother's insistence, tried to convince her to forgive. Each encounter was an emotional battle. Maria wanted to believe she could rebuild her family ties, but the idea of facing Carlos and Ana was unbearable. One day, while walking through the town park, Maria ran into Ana by chance. The encounter was fraught with tension and silence. Ana seemed hesitant, her eyes filled with remorse. "Maria, I'm sorry," she began. But Maria couldn't listen. The anger and pain were too intense. "You destroyed my life," was all she could say before walking away, leaving Ana in tears. The reunion with Carlos was equally painful. He tried to justify his actions, to speak of regret and change, but Maria could only see the man who had destroyed her trust. "I will never forgive you," she declared, her voice firm, though her heart was in pieces. These encounters only reinforced Maria's decision. She couldn't stay in a place where the pain of the past was constantly relived. After a series of painful confrontations and arguments with her mother, Maria decided she had no choice but to leave again. "You're being selfish, Maria," her mother accused. But Maria knew she needed to prioritize her own sanity and happiness. On her last night while packing her things, Maria reflected on everything that had happened. The pain was still there, but she also felt a new strength. She had faced her demons, even if only temporarily, and that made her feel stronger. As she left home the next morning, she felt a mix of sadness and relief. As she boarded the bus to her new life, a solitary tear rolled down her cheek. She knew the road ahead would still be tough, but for the first time in a long time she felt a spark of hope. She had herself and the promise of a future that could be built from her own strength. And so, with a heart still wounded but stronger, Maria left her past behind, determined to find the peace she so desperately sought. Maria returned to her new town, carrying the weight of recent reunions and discussions. The relief of being away from her old life was palpable, but her heart still bore the scars of those confrontations. Each step back into her routine felt harder, as if memories were haunting her. At work, Maria threw herself into tasks, desperately trying to forget. However, the pain persisted, and even John's kindness, who was increasingly present in her life, couldn't erase the wounds. He sensed her sadness, but respected her space, offering silent support. One night, as Maria tried to relax with a book, her phone rang. It was her mother. The voice on the other end sounded desperate. "Carlos is in the hospital. He had an accident. You need to come." The news hit her like a bomb. Despite everything, the emotional connection with Carlos still existed. Maria hesitated, but she knew she had to go. The atmosphere in the hospital was tense. Carlos was unconscious, and doctors couldn't guarantee his recovery. Ana was there, along with some family members. Ana's face was pale, her eyes swollen from crying. When she saw Maria, she rushed to hug her, but Maria recoiled, keeping her distance. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions. Maria was torn between worry for Carlos and the lingering anger she felt. She wondered if she should forgive, if the accident was a sign for her to reconsider. But every time she looked at Ana, the pain of betrayal surged back. Then on a quiet afternoon while Maria was alone in Carlos's hospital room, he woke up. His eyes met hers, and for a moment everything came flooding back. "Maria," his voice was weak but full of emotion. "I'm so sorry, I messed up so much." Tears streamed down Maria's face, but she didn't know if she could forgive. "You've destroyed everything, Carlos. You've shattered my heart and my trust. How can I forgive that?" Carlos tried to explain, to talk about regret and change, but every word seemed inadequate. Maria left the room, her heart heavy, unsure of what to do. She encountered Ana in the hallway, and the ensuing confrontation was explosive. "Did you have to be here to remind me of everything I lost?" Maria shouted, her voice trembling with anger and pain. Ana cried, trying to explain herself, but Maria couldn't hear it. The betrayal was still an open wound, bleeding. Amidst this chaos, an unexpected twist occurred. An old friend of Maria's, Tom, reappeared. He had moved to another city, but upon hearing about Carlos's accident, he came to offer support. Tom was a figure from the past who brought memories of simpler, happier times. His presence brought some comfort to Maria, and she found herself talking to him about things she hadn't discussed in years. Tom revealed something Maria never knew. He had always had feelings for her, but never dared to confess. The revelation left Maria confused. She had closed herself off to love, but Tom's words brought a light she hadn't expected. However, Tom's words also added complexity to her feelings. She was torn between the past and the present, between Carlos, who was still in her life, and the possibility of a new beginning with someone who had always valued her. Amidst all this turbulence, Maria was forced to confront her deepest feelings. She spent sleepless nights reflecting on her choices, her pain, and the possible directions her life could take. The pressure to forgive Carlos and Ana was intense, but the decision couldn't be taken lightly. As Maria navigated this sea of emotions, each day brought new challenges and revelations. She knew that regardless of what she decided, her life would never be the same. And so, with her heart still conflicted, Maria continued to face each day with the hope of finding a resolution that would bring peace and happiness. The following weeks were a true test for Maria. Between trips to the hospital, she found herself surrounded by people who brought painful memories and emotional dilemmas. Every time she saw Carlos struggling to recover, a part of her heart tightened, but the wound of betrayal was still too deep to simply be forgotten. Tom, on the other hand, was a breath of fresh air amidst the storm. His constant presence and unwavering support brought Maria a sense of security she hadn't felt in a long time. They spent hours talking about everything and nothing, and Maria began to see in him a possibility of something new and true. But the shadow of Carlos and Ana loomed over every decision. One day, while walking through the park to clear her mind, Maria ran into her mother. The reunion was tense. Maria's mother was insistent, almost pleading. "You need to forgive, Maria. What happened was a terrible mistake, but holding on to this resentment is destroying you." Maria stepped back, her heart conflicted. She knew her mother wanted the best for her, but she couldn't ignore the pain she still felt. Later that night, Tom invited her to dinner. It was a simple date, yet full of significance. As they talked, Tom spoke about the future, about possibilities and dreams. "Maria, I know you've been through a lot, but I'm here for you. I always have been and always will be." Tom's words deeply touched Maria, but also left her confused. She was torn between the pain of the past and the hope for a future. The turning point came when Carlos, still weak but conscious, asked to see Maria. With a heavy heart, she entered the hospital room. Carlos, his eyes filled with regret, took her hand. "Maria, I know I messed up, but I want you to know that I've always loved you. I messed everything up, but my love for you never changed." Tears streamed down Carlos's face, and Maria felt a lump in her throat. Ana entered the room, making the air even heavier. "Maria, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need to try. Carlos and I messed up, but our friendship, your love, mean everything to me." Maria looked at Ana, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. The betrayal was an open wound, but Anna's sincerity in her eyes made her hesitate. With a divided heart, Maria had to make a decision. She spent the night reflecting, thinking about every moment of pain and every gesture of regret she had witnessed. She knew that any choice she made would be painful, but she also knew she needed to find peace. The next morning, Maria called her mother, Carlos, Anna, and Tom for a meeting. The atmosphere was tense. Maria took a deep breath and began to speak, her voice trembling yet firm. "I've spent the last 15 years trying to run away from pain. Your betrayal destroyed my life and the scars are still here. But at the same time, I've realized that carrying this pain is preventing me from truly living." She looked at Carlos and Anna, whose expressions were filled with pure agony. "I don't know if I can fully forgive, but I'm willing to try. Not for you, but for myself. I deserve peace." The emotion in her words was palpable, and tears flowed down everyone's faces in the room. Turning to Tom, she continued, "Tom, you've brought light into the darkness. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm willing to find out." Tom smiled, a smile filled with hope and love. The meeting ended with hugs and tears, but also with a sense of relief. Maria knew the road ahead would still be difficult, but she was ready to face it. She had made the decision not to let the past define her future, to make room for love and forgiveness, even if the journey was long and painful. And so Maria began to rebuild her life once again, this time with the determination to heal her wounds and find the happiness she deserved. The future was uncertain, but she was ready to face it with courage and hope, surrounded by those who truly mattered. The days following that meeting were filled with uncertainties and challenges for Maria. She found herself facing a new reality where forgiveness and rebuilding were necessary. She felt a weight lifting off her shoulders, but the pain of betrayal lingered like a persistent shadow. Every step she took toward reconciliation felt like stepping into unknown territory, filled with conflicting emotions. Carlos continued his recovery, and Maria visited him regularly at the hospital. Each encounter was a mix of feelings of both good and bad memories. They talked about the past, about the dreams they once shared and the wrong choices that drove them apart. There were moments of silence where they simply existed in each other's presence, trying to grasp what the future held. Anna, on the other hand, made constant efforts to show her remorse. She approached Maria cautiously, without haste, respecting the boundaries Maria had set. Anna knew that trust wouldn't be rebuilt overnight, and every gesture, every word, was a step towards possible redemption. Tom was by Maria's side through it all, offering unconditional support and love. He was a constant presence, a beacon of hope amidst the storm. Maria's feelings for him were growing, but she still felt torn between the past and the present. The possibility of a new beginning with Tom was tempting, but the shadow of what had been with Carlos still haunted her. A crucial moment occurred during a hospital visit. Maria and Carlos were alone in the room, and he held her hand tightly. "Maria, I want you to know that my regret is sincere. I accept that we'll never be the same again, but I hope we can somehow find a way to coexist peacefully." Maria looked into Carlos's eyes and saw sincerity. She knew that while the pain couldn't be erased, there was a possibility of healing. With Anna, the process was slower. During a meeting in the park, the two sat on a bench surrounded by autumn colors. "I know apologizing isn't enough, Maria. I destroyed our friendship and your trust. But I desperately want to find a way to show you that I've changed," Anna said, tears in her eyes. Maria took a deep breath, feeling the cold breeze on her face. "Anna, I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust you again, but I'm willing to try. Let's start slowly, step by step." Maria's decision brought a new dynamic to everyone involved. There were ups and downs, moments of tension and moments of relief. Tom's presence was a significant pillar for Maria, and gradually, she began to allow herself to imagine a future with him. Deep conversations, shared smiles, and mutual understanding strengthened their bond. A year passed, and Maria's life began to take shape in ways she had never imagined. Carlos, now fully recovered, had found a new path in his life. He and Anna maintained a respectful distance, but also showed signs of wanting to be part of Maria's life in a healthy way. Tom and Maria decided to move in together, a step that symbolized not only a new beginning, but also the strength of the love they had built. During a family dinner where Carlos and Anna were also present, Maria gave an emotional speech. "This past year has been one of the toughest of my life. but also the most revealing. I've learned about forgiveness, love, and most importantly, about the strength I have within me. I thank everyone for being with me on this journey. The tears in her mother's eyes, Carlos's shy smile, Anna's hopeful expression, and Tom's loving gaze were proof that, despite the scars, Maria was on the right path. She knew that the future would still bring challenges, but she also knew she had the capacity to face them. And so, with her heart still marked by the experiences of the past but filled with hope for the future, Maria embraced the new life she was building. She had found a way to reconcile, not only with others but primarily with herself. And with Tom by her side, she was ready for whatever destiny had in store. Pain, huh?